All right, hello. Trying to get these done. On to Numbers 10. Just fair warning, you'll probably hear right outside my window, kids are having recess. So if you hear some kids yelling, that's what that is. This is by Mount Sinai, silver trumpets, and then they leave Sinai. Verse 1. The Lord said to Moses, "Make 2 trumpets of hammered silver and use them for calling the community together and for having the camp set out. When both are sounded, the whole community is to assemble before you at the entrance to the tent of meeting. If only one is sounded, the leaders, the heads of the clans of Israel, are to assemble before you. When a trumpet blast is sounded, okay, I gotta try this again. I'm trying to follow this here. They made 2. When both are sounded, the whole community is to assemble before the entrance. When one is sounded, just the leaders. Verse 5, when a trumpet blast is sounded, the tribes camping on the east are to set out. At the sounding of a second blast, the camps on both are to set out. The blast will be the signal for setting out. To gather the assembly, blow the trumpets, but not with the signal for setting out. Okay. You gotta be a good trumpeter, because that was kind of confusing. 1 trumpet, or 2 trumpets being blasted, I'm guessing simultaneously, because they made 2 of them, means the whole group assembles, all Israel. 1 trumpet sounding means just the leaders. But 1 trumpet blast, however that's different than the 1 trumpet signal, is for the tribes on the east to set out. The second one is for the camps in the south to set out. That's confusing. Like, and it says at the end, but not, when to gather them together, blow the trumpets, but not with the signal for setting out. What's the signal? Because it's just saying to sound them for both of them. Like, 1 trumpet blast could mean either the east needs to set out, or it could mean that since it's only 1 of them, that means the leaders of the heads need to assemble. It's not the best organization. Maybe it's somewhere lost in translation. Let's look here. I know it's a minute detail. Like, this isn't a point of salvation by any means, obviously. This is the stuff where my mind goes. All right. When they blow both of them, distinctive sounds are made to indicate. Okay, so there must be some sort of translation loss of, like, holding a note or however long, because you can't just have a trumpet blast means this and a trumpet blast means this. They have to have different sounding signals, but they're the same trumpet. Commentary on if we follow Jewish tradition, long blasts were used to assemble the people to Moses, to the tent of meeting and for worship. Short staccato blasts were used in battle and to order camps to move off. So short blast, there. That's all I wanted to know. Not much else for the commentary there. Does it say anything about them being significance of them being silver? The 2 silver trumpets were used to direct the movement of the camps Silver trumpets are distinct from trumpets made for ram's horns, the shofar, that was used to announce the Day of Atonement. I suspect that considerable time would have been necessary for Moses and his artisans to make these trumpets of hammered silver. God may have instructed Moses to have these trumpets fashioned months before the people actually set out on the triumphant march. The trumpets are described by Josephus and pictured on the Ark of Titus in Rome. They were straight pipes, a little less than 18 inches. Okay, no significance, just straight facts. Verse 8, the sons of Aaron, the priests, are to blow the trumpets. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you in the generations to come. When you go into battle in your own land against any enemy who is opposing you, sound a blast on the trumpets. Then you will be remembered by the Lord your God and rescued from your enemies. Also, at your times of rejoicing, your appointed festivals and the new moon feasts, you are to sound the trumpets over your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, and they will be a memorial for you before your God. I am the Lord your God. Okay, this gets back to what I've been saying in a bunch of this stuff. As far as, is it important in of itself that, the trumpet blast before battle. Not necessarily. I mean, it is inspirational and it's a signaling thing. But notice what they said here. When you go into battle in your own land against an enemy who is opposing you, so you're not invading, it's in your land against an enemy that's opposing you, sound a blast on the trumpets, then you will be remembered by the Lord your God. You're doing it calling for God. Okay? You're not doing it out of arrogance. We can defeat them. We're so awesome, prideful, anything like that. You're being humble, saying, Lord, we need your help. It shows that you still have reverence and humility before the Lord. That's what's necessary. Again, it's everything is in your heart. Only God knows a man's heart. You might say, well, Israel didn't win every battle, and they probably sounded these trumpets, but were they calling on the Lord, or are they doing it just out of tradition? Traditions are important as long as we teach the meaning of the tradition and why it is the way it is. I made this point the last time about why, the Catholics adopting Christmas as the celebration of Christ, and the whole sun in the tomb and the solstice and all that stuff that Big Bear's talked about a bunch. If we just taught that, say churches just taught that, said, no, we all know that Jesus' birthday was not December. This is the reason why we celebrate it. The pagans had this solstice and we heard their story, blah, blah, blah. Think about how beautiful that would be. And people understand, oh my gosh, what a wonderful message and a way to bring people in a way that they could understand what we were showing them, and that it was shown in the stars and written for their heart in their hearts. But we don't do that. You have to teach the reason for the tradition. You have to teach the reason why this tradition is important. Otherwise, the tradition loses all meaning and all value. I doubt the commentary has much to add, but let's see. Nope. Not a whole lot, it looks like. Verse 11, on the 20th day of the second month of the second year, the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle, meaning it's time to leave, of the covenant law. Then the Israelites set out from the desert, I'm sure they sounded their trumpets, of Sinai, and traveled from place to place until the cloud came to rest in the desert of Paran. They set out this first time at the Lord's command through Moses. It would be so cool, and somebody somewhere's probably done it, but you've seen the timelines of like what's happening in history around the world lining up with the Bible's history, and what's coinciding in Asia at the time of, Elijah and all this stuff. I think it'd be really cool to set up one where it's the traveling, where the clouds leading the people of Israel through the wilderness, where exactly, and then if we could somehow have research of what those Mesopotamian and Canaanite cultures were doing at the time, because I really think that what God was doing was keeping them safe, like making sure if you settle in one place too long, you're becoming a target for these people. You go over here right when they were getting look at you, but because they were looking at you, these people are now have a city that was on the other side of them who's looking at them as weakness, and that distracts them again, so later you can come back. And the Israelites may not have been aware of it, but if you could line them up, I think that would be really, really cool to see, just how God was like moving them and positioning them for their safety and their survival and their training in the wilderness. The divisions of, this is verse 14. The divisions of the camp of Judah went out under the standard. Nahshon, son of Amminadab, was in command. Nathanael, son of Zur, was over the division of the tribe of Issachar, and Eliab, son of Helon, was over the division of the tribe of Zebulun. Then the tabernacle was taken down, and the Gershonites and Merarites who carried it set out. The divisions of the camp of Reuben went next under the standard. Eleazar, son of Shedeur, was in command. Shelumiel, son of Zereshaddah, was over the division of the tribe of Simeon, and Eliasaph, son of Deuel, was over the division of the tribe of Gad. Then the Kohathites set out, carrying the holy things. The tabernacle was to be set up before they arrived. The division it's just so efficient the way that they do this. And again, looking at it, you can do the secular way of looking at it, you can do the biblical way and spiritual way. I combine the two of them because I believe in the spiritual and I believe in the Bible and I believe God is speaking to Moses, but I also see that Moses is the right man for the job. He studied it probably at Heliopolis. In my opinion, most likely he was able to see the books that I believe Jacob brought with him as inheritance when they went to live in the, was it Goshen or whatever area of Egypt. And so he understands these people maybe even better than they do, at least their God and their traditions. And he also understands structure and organization because he was raised basically, in engineering and society building and all these things in Egypt. And then even with his father-in-law Jethro showing him how to better organize a group of people. Now, Jethro didn't have the size that Moses has, but he had his own, clan, tribe, little thing that he ran. So Moses' efficiency and the way he sets all this stuff up, it's a Jewish thing. Jewish people are very efficient. They're good at business and finance and all this stuff, and they're good at running organizations. And look at this. If you raised your people to study and learn from the Bible and through the Bible, they're playing wall ball outside, and you raise them studying the Bible, they're going to have this understanding of the importance of organization because God is making it so organized. The tabernacle leaves a few tribes ahead of the people carrying the holy things. That way it can be set up before they get there. Anyway, moving on. I just, like Big Bear, I'm very much a utilitarian. I like efficiency a lot. So I know it's a big nerd thing, but it's cool to me. The divisions of the camp of Ephraim went next under the standard. Elishama, son of Ammihud, was in command. Gamaliel, son of Pedahuzur, was over the division of the tribe of Manasseh. And Abidan, son of Gideoni, was over the division of the tribe of Benjamin. Finally, as the rear guard of all the units, the divisions of the camp of Dan set out under the standard, Ahizar, son of Amishadi, was in command. Pagiel, son of Okran, was over the division of the tribe of Asher, and Ahira, son of Enan, was over the division of the tribe of Naphtali. This was the order of march for the Israelite divisions as they set out. Alright, I don't think the commentary is going to have too much to add on that, but we'll see. Little things that I'm curious about, the rear guard and the lead scout guard, why exactly were they chosen for a specific purpose? Did they have better stealth abilities and scouting abilities in the first group, or... Okay, so the commentary basically just talks about how, they were ready to be moved out. He walks through the things that happened earlier in the book of Numbers. Numbers 1 through 4, they had become ordered and organized. Talked a lot about that. Numbers 5, they had become cleansed and purified. Numbers 6, they had become set apart and blessed. Numbers 3, and then 7 and 8, they had learned how to give and how to function as priests. Numbers 9, they were to remember judgments, bread and deliverance brought. And then Numbers 9 through 10, they had God's presence as a guide and tool. So basically, the first 10 chapters here of Numbers is them getting ready to wander the wilderness, them getting ready to move around, them setting up. We'll find out why they have to wander the wilderness eventually here, after the whole Caleb and Joshua thing and appearing like grasshoppers in their sight and all that. But that's what's happening in the first section of Numbers. And always thought of this as a boring section. Always thought of it as something like, I gotta power my way through this. But as an adult, I have small farm manage, I have my family, I have my teams, I have my classroom, all this stuff. I really do appreciate the emphasis on organization and efficiency that is put into it. And it's just ironic to me how many people think of the Bible as this fairy tale novel. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really read that way. It doesn't. You know, if it was a fairy tale novel, they would have gone way more into detail about Genesis 6. Like, they wouldn't have just glossed over it. They're just very much utilitarian. It really is. So let's finish it up here. Now Moses said to Habab, son of Reuel the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law. Okay, now Moses said to Habab, son of Reuel the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law. I thought Jethro was his father-in-law. Man, I gotta look that up. Moses' father-in-law. His name is Jethro. Jethro. Okay, so this is... Okay. We are setting out for the place about which the Lord said, I will give it to you. Come with us, and we will treat you well, for the Lord has promised good things to Israel. He answered, No, I will not go. I am going back to my own land and my own people. But Moses said, Please do not leave us. You know where we should camp in the wilderness, and you can be our eyes. If you come with us, we will share with you whatever good things the Lord gives us. So they set out from the mountain of the Lord and traveled for 3 days. The ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them during those 3 days to find them a place to rest. The cloud of the Lord was over them by day when they set out from the camp. Whenever the ark set out, Moses said, Rise up, Lord. May your enemies be scattered. May your foes flee before you. Whenever it came to rest, he said, Return, Lord, to the countless thousands of Israel. All right, what does the commentary have to say here? I find it interesting how Moses, he often seems to be like, I get it, you know, I'm being very judgmental, but sometimes it seems like his faith is kind of weak. Like when the burning bush had to yell at him, be like, who put the tongue in your mouth? Like, just go do what I told you to do. Here again, I mean, there's more examples, but here again, he's like, oh, yeah, you have a cloud that's guiding you. But he's like, hey, look, you're more experienced in living in the wilderness. You be like the guy who can help guide us and set out. And it's like, you're not trusting? Oh, his brother-in-law. Okay, so Reuel was his brother-in-law. That's what the commentary says. Moses was a wise enough leader to know his limitations and to know that he needed help. I mean, I get that. That's what I'm saying. I'm probably being judgmental. But it's like, if you have a cloud of God, I mean, do you really need another guide? Moses knew God's help often comes through men like his brother-in-law Hobab. True. Though Israel was guided by God, there was still help needed by man. Men like Hobab. God plans it this way, often arranging his help to come, at least in part, through people he has ordained to help us. I get that, and I like the messaging, I really do. And I'm not talking bad or anything. I'm just saying, in the instance of an actual cloud of God being your guide, do you really need another guide? I mean, I guess Hobab, there's other reasons. Like, if he knows the wilderness really well, he'll know how to like hunt and trap and how to gather water and all these things. He'll know how to treat with local people if they have to. So plants, herbs, I get it. And God does work that way. I mean, often we want God to have, there we go, I like that. Often we want God to have like this, where's my cloud? Just the cloud that guides me. Show me, show me, show me. And a lot of times he is using the people around you. And it's not even like they're perfect people. Like Reuel, I'm sure he's a descendant of Abraham. He has his own version of God, I'm sure, Jethro, in their own way. But it had been somewhat bastardized, like a lot of churches now. He wasn't like quite the devout man that Moses was. Probably more so than a lot of these Israelites were. But, so you could say Moses is a better man than him, but Moses knew that he needed him and God was going to work through him. You know, God will work through people who you view as beneath you to help guide you. So it's important to stay humble in that sense. That's something I've always struggled with. I don't seem like it, but I get cocky way too fast. I know it, at least. I try not to. It's not like I'm braggadocious in person. It's that, I learn a new skill. I learn it so quickly that I don't feel like I need to keep working on it, and then people will pass me by, sort of thing. Getting all personal. It is a question which every body of Christian has need to ask itself. Can we honestly say that those without come with us, and we will do you good? In order that there may be certainty on this point, should not every member of the church be able to testify that the faith he has gives joy and peace, that his fellowship with God is making life pure and strong and free? Well, I agree with that, but I don't understand how that correlates with this verse here. Please do not leave. Since Moses knew God could use Hobab in a significant way, he was willing to appeal to him and not to take initial no as an answer. The first appeal to Hobab's selfishness, we will treat with you well. The second appeal, the successful appeal, was to the charity and helpfulness. You can be our eyes. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. We are very prone to make our appeal to selfishness, granted on a high level, but still to selfishness. Would not the appeal that calls to service and sacrifice to the heroic be far more forceful? One thing is certain, this was the supreme note in Christ's call to men in the days of his life, of his flesh. That's so true. The first appeal was to his selfish nature, and that is the first thing that we will appeal to. And we've almost gotten to a society where it seems rude if you appeal in any other way to begin with. It's like, hey man, I gotta paint my barn next week. You wanna come over? I can pay you, like $50. And the person might be like, no, you don't need to pay me. Oh, come on, I'll at least cook you a meal, something like that. And that's great, and that's nice, and that's what you should do. But at the same time, hey man, I could really use the help. I know, I don't even know how we'd say it anymore, but you wouldn't appeal the first way to, dude, you're really good at painting. You're really good. Hey, you got better balance than me on the ladder. I'd really appreciate your help. It'd be a big benefit, and we need to get this done before the weather comes in hard and the rain kind of wears down the wood. You appeal to the charitable nature of the person. Is that projection? Do we project the selfishness onto the person? But that is a good point there. In the book of Judges, we find traces of the presence of Hobab's descendants. So basically, Moses' kids' cousins are incorporated among the people of Israel. One of them to be somebody, the Jael, who struck the tent peg through the temples of the sleeping Sisera. Oh yeah, I remember that story. For she is called the wife of Heber the Kenite. Probably then, in some sense, Hobab must have become a worshiper of Jehovah and have cast in his lot with his brother-in-law and his people. Yeah, the Kenites, the descendants of Moses' brother-in-law, they get adopted into it shows that it's not just the descendants of Jacob, as the Israelites claim. First of all, it's descendants of Abraham that have the thing to begin with, and Jethro, if he's a descendant of the Midianites, then he would be a descendant of Abraham. So I feel like, Ishmael, they lost their way, their descendants, they picked up a lot of pagan stuff, the other sons of Abraham with his second wife, they did kind of start to lose it a bit. Same with Esau, but it's not like they weren't getting some of it. They were getting some of the teachings, at least, of their father and grandfathers and all this stuff. They knew who Abraham was. They knew his story. He still would have been celebrated in their family. Same with, Esau talking about his father Isaac. And what was big about Abraham and Isaac? Their devotion to God, the one God. So it wouldn't have been that hard of a stretch for the Kenites to come back to them as well. Now, I'm not trying to get way off topic here, but I believe that God may have made himself known to all kinds of different peoples in different ways. Just as Judaism, in a lot of ways, kept getting bastardized and that they kept falling away from the faith and worshiping the other stuff around them, I'm sure the same thing happened in a lot of these other cultures. Because you see remnants of truth in a lot of these other teachings. Japheth, I'm sure, taught his children the teachings of Noah. Ham was not the cursed one. Canaan was the cursed one. And I don't think Cush was too good of a guy either. A lot of his kids didn't end up that great. But I'm sure he still taught them some of the stuff of Noah. Japheth's kids certainly were taught some of the stuff of Noah. Shem's kids, obviously, a lot of them fell away. A lot of people fall away from the teachings of their fathers. But a lot of them hold on to it. Even the ones that fall away, they still hold on to that heroic figure of their father or grandfather or great-grandfather. And eventually they want to know more. You know, the kid who never met his great-grandfather but hears these stories was going to want to know more. They're going to learn about this God that he had. And I feel like that happened all over the world from what my studies have shown me, is that people all over the world were taught in some way, shape, or form the teachings of Noah after the flood, the teachings of their ancestors. And they hold on to bits of it and they change it and they bastardize it in a lot of ways. But at the same time, that leaves the door open so much more for the real truth to come in, because they already have a few of those doors and cracks still in there. Because the truth is the truth. All right, that was a tangent, went way off. I have enjoyed doing numbers, but I do think that the sections kind of change after chapter 10 here as far as the focus now that they're moving around. So we should get into a bit more interesting stuff, and the focus of the studies will change, I'm sure, along the way. Thanks for joining me. Hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon, evening, or good night. God bless.